See you. This is great to see such a nice crowd here today. Justin and I are really excited to bring you the 6 types of working genius. Thanks, Cameron, for the great introduction. We're going to kick off and get started. Um, it's just such a privilege to be with all of you. I know some of you are students, and I work in education, so that is great. Students and staff are here. We also have some entrepreneurs and some other members in the community who are working in organizations and possibly leading in organizations. And anytime I get to work with individuals on their teams and identify where their areas of strength are within their work and where they fit on a team so they can find fulfillment in their work and maximize their performance, it hardly feels like work at all for me. And so Justin and I are excited to dive in today about what is that all about, working without feeling like you're working today. Justin, I'll let you share, dive in here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here with everybody. This is a topic that has grabbed me for years. I love culture. I love building teams. The idea of, maximizing human performance is really fun. I'm currently getting my master's in human behavior. And I also work for a nonprofit called the Alliance locally here in Roseville, California. And I actually got the job partially because of Working Genius. So I owe a lot to this model and to what it's done in my life. Just super excited to unpack it with you and help this, hopefully, gain some new knowledge that'll help you in your journey and whatever you're doing in your life. So excited to get started.
And no, that's great. Thanks, Justin. You might have noticed our screen names have our first name and our last name, but then we have 2 letters after our names. Those are our working geniuses. So after you take the working genius assessment, you will end up getting some results and you will have a top 2 geniuses. If you are attending this right now and you were so intrigued by the advertisement that Cameron and his team sent out and you went ahead and took the working genius assessment already, feel free to change your screen name with your working genius letters behind your name if you would like to. And if you don't know what we're talking about yet, that's okay, because we get to teach that to you today. So secondly, as Cameron mentioned, I'll just reinforce that if you have any questions or comments that you would like to share along the way, please engage in the chat. We will try and watch that, and we would be happy to answer questions along the way and bring you in on this. So Justin is going to bring you in on this right away as we dive in.
Yeah, I was excited to read in the chat. There's a gentleman named Daniel who's a fellow IG, and that's, where is Daniel around here? Raise your, oh, there you are, Daniel. What's up, man? So cool to meet fellow IGs. It'll be good to unpack this with you and help you kind of learn a little bit more about that. So we have a really interesting little exercise we want to start out with to help start this process. So it's called Would You Rather? And so we're going to put up the screen here. And what we're asking you to do is to look at the 2 questions that are going to be put up on the screen and identify which of those 2 would you rather do. And these are tied into things that you might come across in the work you do. Also pay attention to whether you end up as a blue or a red in the different questions, because that plays into something important too. And we'll share which of the geniuses each question aligns with. So when you have your pick, if you can put into with the emoji, either the heart or the celebratory horn into your screen, and that way we can see whether we have more of one than the other, which will be fun to kind of see where we all align. So the first would you rather questions: would you rather sit in your office with the door closed working on a list of paperwork tasks to finish, or would you rather sit quietly in your office considering the possibilities for how your organization could improve the work culture? You might be somebody who both of these are very, very exciting. And that would just mean that you have both of those areas of genius. But for now, for this, just go with which is your favorite and put that on there.
All right, so far we've got some hearts, popping up here. Couple of the celebrations. Okay. All right.
So a
Great. So it's
couple.
looking like people like to finish tasks, Justin. A lot of
Okay, we
people like
got
doing
we got a
that.
lot we got a lot of tenacity people. You'll know that that means tenacity when we get to the future slides. You'll see this come into play. You'll also notice that red will come into play as disruptive. So red disruptive, blue is responsive. We'll unpack that a little bit more later. But let's go on to the next one. All right. So we got, would you rather take a call from a client and respond enthusiastically to what they need? Or would you like to stand in a room with a blank whiteboard and come up with new and innovative ideas? Okay. And hopefully this is more of what you naturally just gravitate towards, something you maybe have been doing your whole life. It's always just been who you are. It's not as much of a skill developed, but just which naturally you gravitate towards.
Okay. A lot of them want to respond to the client on the phone.
Okay. So as you saw, that's a blue. So that's a responsive, and that is enablement. So that's going to be described later. And then the other one, we don't have as many innovative inventors. That's what I fall into. That's the I in this in the model. But so okay, cool. We got more E's.
Okay, last one.
Last but not least, would you rather enter a room with a whiteboard of new ideas and evaluate which ones would provide the most value and effectiveness for your organization? Or would you rather get up in front of your organization and get them excited about a new project you are launching? Okay.
Well, it's about half, 50-50 here.
Well, I'm glad that Daniel passed the test because he's a galvanizer, and that would be the heart one on the bottom with the red, and the discernment one, which Stacy and Cameron both know very well about that, and they would pass that test because that would be theirs. So yeah, Stacy, how was it? Was it pretty balanced? Or we found, I guess, on this one, was it how was that?
Yeah. Well, and yes, this one seemed like it was pretty balanced, 50-50 with, oh, it looks like they went down already now, but as I was scrolling through, it was about half and half there. So this will help us, this will help kind of get you start to thinking about the activities of work. What if when I'm in a work setting, what types of things might I be doing? So the working genius is going to help you kind of fall into different areas that you naturally will prefer. So we are going to just to give a little overview here of why working genius. So, I'm somebody who I really enjoy a lot of the personality profiles and assessments that are available out there. They've given me great insight and helped me in my professional and personal life. But I have to say, Working Genius, what's different about it is that it is mainly a productivity tool. And so it's going to help us see exactly how we are naturally wired for getting any kind of work done. So it's actually the activities that we like to do, not so much our personality. There's a little bit of that, but more so what types of things that when we're doing those things, it actually brings us joy and fulfillment, and it energizes us, and it actually brings nourishment to who we are, so that it almost doesn't feel like we're working at all. A couple things that set Working Genius apart. It's extremely simple, and the results, you can take this assessment and within 10 minutes you'll have your results, and you'll be able to directly apply it to your work, and it'll give you instant understanding for how you are wired for working, along with being able to share some other depths for teamwork and how you can be more effective in that way. It's also really importantly going to inform you of the types of work that you should be doing, and almost more importantly, the types of work that you should not be doing or avoiding or trying to do as little as possible of. So, I mentioned this works with teams as well. So, when a team understands where everybody's strengths are as it relates to getting work done, you're able to get more done in less time. And of course, everybody's going to have higher degrees of fulfillment and morale because you're able to work in your areas that are really fulfilling for you. It also brings wonderful clarity for where you are in the process of getting work done, and it wraps language around that whole process. And we're going to take a look at that. So I'm going to move into sharing this model with you. The whole working genius model. This was a model that was discovered by Patrick Lencioni and his team at the Table Group, which is located in California. And they are a consulting company, and they have shared this with the world now, and it's out there. There have been, Justin, what is it, over 200,000 people have taken the assessment now? I think they've reached 200,000. Is
I
that
believe
right?
so, yeah.
Okay, so it's only been out for a little over a year, but it has been wildly popular, and teams have found it extremely successful once they've started to infuse it into their teams and organizations. So let's go through this here. So the 6 types of working genius, as you can see on the screen, there are 6 gears. So it ends up spelling widget, and you can tell that these gears would interlock with each other, meaning they only work if they have the one next to it, and they really need each other in order to work. So that's kind of a nice undertone meaning in this as well. But each of these 6 gears, they they coincide with 2 things. One, how we are wired for working, what might be your natural way, and then 2, the process of getting work done. So just to start it off here, the first one is the genius of wonder. So people who have the genius of wonder, they are those people who can really sit and ponder and ask questions. They can really consider the possibilities for how they might be able to make their organization better. And they can really sit in that ambiguity for a long time and be asking, are we doing the best that we can? What is it that our market or our potential clients need the most right now? And they're very good at spotting possibilities, and they are very comfortable sitting in that questioning. And everything really has to start with a question to activate this whole process. Next is people who have the gift of invention. People who have this gift, they love coming up with new ideas. They love to innovate and just start from scratch. Give them a blank whiteboard, and they'll just go to town with coming up with new ideas. And they're really activated by hearing somebody prompt them with a question, and they love to be able to solve problems and come up with answers. The next one we have here is the gift of discernment. So people who have invention, they need a discerner working with them, because people who have the gift of discernment are naturally wired for being able to kind of curate ideas and give really good feedback, and they have a really good gut instinct and intuition as to whether different ideas and inventions are going to be workable. And so the inventor and the discerner, when they have a healthy relationship, are able to go back and forth. Inventor comes up with ideas. The discerner is able to give feedback and say, "Oh, yeah, I think that's good," or "I have a question about this one. I think people might be wondering about this. Let's bring clarity to that." And they can give that. They can have that really healthy. We call that an ID loop. And if you notice with Justin and I screen names, I have discernment as one of my gifts. Justin has invention as his top gift. So his and I work together is great in this way because we have that ID loop. Justin loves to come up with the ideas. I can kind of sit back and be responsive and give feedback to what he's come up with. The next gift is the gift of galvanizing. So Justin has already picked somebody in our crowd today who has that in their top geniuses. Now, once an idea has been discerned that it is the right one, and team is ready to move forward, you need somebody to champion this idea. And the people who have the gift of galvanizing are the best ones for this, because they love to get the whole group excited about this. They rally everybody, they get the ball rolling. Okay. And they're very good at championing the idea and getting things moving. This is critical on a team. To have somebody do this, and they naturally love, they actually get energy, they're not drained from getting up and getting a group of people excited. They are energized by that. Now, there needs to be somebody to respond to the rallying cry, and those are people who have the gift of enablement. And we understand that that term enablement has traditionally gotten a really bad rap, and the table group who created this, they have decided that they are rebranding the word enablement. This is enablement in a very good way, not like enabling somebody around an addiction, but people who have the gift of enablement, they are people who know how to be responsive to that rallying cry, and they are people who are ready to jump in, help, and say, I'm here to help, what can I do? They're able to flex to what is needed. They can anticipate when support and help will be needed, and they're happy to conform to what that might be. These people are critical on a team, and they're actually the ones that keep the momentum going once it has been ignited by that galvanizer. Now, they're not the ones that are necessarily going to love to finish things. Those are the people who have the gift of tenacity. People who have that gift of tenacity, they actually get joy and energy out of finishing things. They love to see the final product get done, and they actually get joy and energy from seeing something come all the way through to fruition at the agreed upon standards. That nothing brings them more joy than that, and they're not satisfied bringing the ball to the 2-yard line. No, they need to cross over into the end zone, and they absolutely love checking things off of a box and having things completed. It actually brings them joy and energy to complete things, and we need those people on our team as well. So these 6 geniuses, when you put them all together, as I mentioned, as you can see, as I was describing them, it really shows why we all need each other. No one genius is better than the other. They are all just absolutely needed in this. And again, as I mentioned, with the work that Justin and I get to do together, we really see this happen. Justin, can you think of a time where we've really appreciated our complementary geniuses?
Oh, every day. But yeah, when you're able to find a team, 1 or 2 people who really fit all the gears, it's such a beautiful thing. In particular, there's sometimes geniuses that we call them dormant, or another name for them would be like unrealized. And those are areas where maybe you have a frustration that's the next gear over. And so for me, I was a dormant genius for a long time, and because I wouldn't have anybody to bring a question for me to solve, or I wouldn't be able to really discern the ideas that come up. We think all of our ideas are amazing. If you're an inventor, you think everything is like, this is the best idea ever, and you need to have somebody like Stacy. So all the time, I come up with I would either not have anything to solve, or I would come up with ideas and then have no idea if it's a good idea, and I would just start galvanizing the heck out of a bad idea. And so Stacy came into my life and changed everything, because now she brings me good questions that I should try to solve, the right ones in that moment, and then she helps refine my bad ideas, or the good ones that could use a little bit of love, or reinforce for me like whether that this is a good idea and that it's the right one for me to start to galvanize. And then she's able to then respond to my loud, excitable energy that gets her rallied around what we're doing. And then she can then take that and move us forward. So I think it's every project that we work on, that we get to play into those areas, and we both maximize each other and bring out things in each other that would not be able to be brought out on our own, because like Patrick says, we all need each other. And it really is the case. Being able to identify who those people are that are the right fit to help you maximize your potential is really a beautiful discovery. So
Yeah, so true. Thanks for sharing about that. It's so real. So the three stages of work, traditionally in the world of work, we have thought about stages of work happening in two sections: ideation and implementation. Come up with an idea and implement it. Throw it over the wall, as they might say, and implement it. Well, with Working Genius, coming up with that middle phase was a critical point, which we call activation. Sometimes when ideas would just as Justin was talking about, not every idea is going to be the best idea that's actually going to work. And so that key piece of activation in the middle, having discernment, being able to give the inventor the feedback, be able to assess the workability. People who have the gift of discernment, they're actually able to give good feedback and be able to curate things across a variety of topics. It's not just industry expertise. That's not what we're talking about here. Some people can have not a very good discernment but great industry expertise. If you have the gift of discernment across a broad range of topics, you're able to just understand patterns very quickly and be able to give that feedback. That is critical in stages of work. If you're launching a new product, or if you're doing a project together, being able to have that phase within activation. And then you've got to have somebody champion your idea in order for it to, because again, enablers, they need a galvanizer. They need something to respond to. I've talked with teams before where we've had a whole string of enablement people and no galvanizers. And they were wondering why they were getting frustrated in their work. And we discovered that they were ready and waiting to respond, but they didn't have anybody championing their ideas that they could respond to. So that was a key piece to learn about. So these three stages of work can be so important when you look at the dynamics of a team. In understanding, this gives great language for meetings. We now label our meetings. I know on a team I'm on, another team I'm on as well, we label our meetings. We're in a WI meeting today. That tells us that we know that we're going to be at that higher elevation doing some brainstorming, coming up with ideas. We're not really ready to talk about tactical pieces yet, because that's going to come later in implementation. And we're not ready to rally everybody, because that's going to be more some of the activation. But we know where we're at. It brings clarity and language, so that the more people can understand that, then the more effective and efficient you can be in your work, and that productivity goes up. So Justin said these couple of words: responsive, disruptive. So another way to cut up this model is to take a look at the geniuses cut into two different pieces here. So along the top, these three geniuses: wonder, discernment, enablement, all three of those are responsive geniuses. So people who have any of these, they are waiting to respond to something. And as it turns out, my top three are D, E, and then W. So I'm all responsive. This explained a lot for me. I understood why I don't naturally incline to kind of impose my will upon things. I more might sit back in meetings, and it's not because I don't care, I'm not invested. I am 100%, but I'm waiting to respond to something. And so I'm very responsive in that way. So think about people on your team or family members that if you ever question, I wonder how invested they are in this, do they care? They might be really naturally wired for being responsive in that way. Along the bottom, are people who have those geniuses in invention, galvanizing, and tenacity. We call those disruptive. And again, it's not a negative disruptive, but disruptive, they are ready to kind of disrupt or impose their will upon things. With an invention, inventors say things like, oh, I have an idea, I want to solve that. galvanizers are like, come on, everybody, let's do this together. And tenacity people are ready to, let's finish things. We've got to get this done. So they are more disrupting everything in order to move the ball along in that way. So that's another way to look at this and bring clarity and break down some of those misattributions that we might be making about others sitting around the table from us if we aren't careful with understanding who they truly are in as it relates to being wired for working. So, working genius profile, when you take the assessment, you are going to get a profile report. And again, like I said, you can take it, and we will put in the chat to a link at the end just to go to the website. It's a $25 assessment. They probably could have charged a lot more for this, but they really wanted to make it accessible to a lot of people so that you can get this information. It can not only be helpful in the work world, but I mean, let's be real, our homes, running a household, that's a work environment as well. You're getting all kinds of things done and that need to be finished, and you're working together as a family. And so it gives great insight for families as well. So I'm going to share my profile report just to give you an idea of what does this look like and how does this work. So you'll get a printout. It's about 15 pages. You're going to get a quantitative result, and then there's a qualitative piece. The qualitative piece is what it breaks down an explanation a lot further. So my quantitative piece, as you can see, I've got a breakdown of the green, the yellow, and then the red areas. So the green here, my top two, so there's 2, 2, and 2, which makes up 6. My top 2 geniuses are enablement and discernment. These are the things that when I get to do things where I get to respond to people's needs, if I can respond to a galvanizer in some way, if I find myself saying, how can I help? What can I do? I love to be responsive. If I can be in that, and if I can use my discernment, I absolutely love what I'm doing. Those are my top 2 geniuses. And when I'm doing work that involves anything like that calls for enablement or discernment, I feel like I'm just a flywheel. My working competencies, so those are your middle 2 geniuses, and those are the things that you can do and you might be able to do pretty well, but they don't bring you joy and energy. But you could be highly skilled at them. Now, these are the areas where you might want to be careful, because if you're living in these areas a lot of the time and you're kind of getting burned out and you don't know why because you're pretty good at what you do, those might be competencies for you. So mine turn out to be wonder and tenacity. I do like to wonder, but I don't feel like I could sit and ponder things all day. I really need to get going on things and see movement happen. Tenacity is another thing where I don't love finishing things. I don't get joy from checking boxes off of a to-do list, but I do like to see things completed, of course, and I will get them done when I need to, of course. And then my working frustrations are galvanizing and invention. So those, anytime if I'm having to do something where it calls for galvanizing or coming up with new ideas, I feel drained almost immediately going into it. Every job is a 6-letter job. You have to really do all of these within your job. But when you think about where am I spending my time, hopefully just a little bit of my time is in galvanizing and invention, and I can spend a lot more time in my geniuses to gain that fulfillment. Justin has a little bit of a analogy he's going to show us here. Should I stop sharing so that they can see you better? Would
Sure.
you like me to?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
All right, so we all know what these are, right? We all have one of these trusty things at our house, in our office, something like that. They're great because they either keep things cold, they keep things warm. In this analogy, we're gonna think of it from keeping it warm in terms of coffee. So Patrick uses this analogy, Patrick Lencioni, the founder, and I love it because it really speaks to the working genius model. So when you have your coffee and you pour it in the morning, you close the top, you're pretty confident that that energy, that heat is going to stay trapped in here for a decent amount of time, sometimes all day, depending on the quality of your bottle. Now, this is like your geniuses. When you think about your geniuses and what you naturally get energy from, what you get fulfillment from, what really gives you joy, that's like the energy in here where you can do that all day. Like I think about galvanizing. I can galvanize all day long. Like Daniel, you feel me, Daniel. I know. Yeah, right. You could do that all day long. And it's like you get done, you're like, this is the best day ever. Like I can drink my coffee at like end of the day and it's warm, it's delicious, it's still just feeling amazing. So think of that when you think of your geniuses, because there's a lot of things that are like your competencies in this cup here. So this competency cup, we'll call it that. So you have a top on it, right? But it still has the little hole. So it'll keep it warm. You can drink this in here for a number of hours. It's going to be decent. But what happens if you drink this after like it's been sitting there for 6 hours? It's going to taste pretty bad, or at the very least, maybe you like cold coffee, but it's not going to be that good. So in that situation, that's your competencies. You could be really good in your competencies. You could be in a job your whole career and you could gain these real skills. That's like this. Maybe you put a stopper in it and it's a little bit warmer, but still it's not going to be really fulfilling by the end of the day. Now your frustrations. See, that's like having a hole in the bottom of a styrofoam cup. You try to put coffee in there. What's going to happen? Well, if you're intentional around your frustrations, yeah, you can plug the hole. You can kind of keep it in there, but this is not going to stay warm for very long. And more than likely, your finger's going to slip. It's going to spill over your pants, and you're going to be miserable by the end of the day if you're drinking coffee out of a cup like this all day. And that's like when you're spending your entire day in your areas of frustration. These things deplete you. You get frustrated. They don't come naturally to you. You're probably going to be grouchy at home when you get home. You're like, this was a really crappy day. I don't know why it was a really crappy day, but this day was not fun. And that's like the days where you have to drink coffee out of a cup with a hole in the bottom and no top. So hopefully that gives you a little visual of how it really feels between what comes naturally and you get energy from, what you're good at, but not necessarily get fulfillment from. And what really creates a bad day is when you're stuck in your frustrations. And we want you to be able to get to a point where, at the very least, for the most part, you don't have to have those bad days as often because you use this model. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Justin has shared with me about how Working Genius has really helped him let go of some guilt that he's held as well. Justin, I'd love to looks like we have some time. I want to just go back to the stages of work. Would you mind sharing with everybody, because it was such a powerful example when you shared it with me about some of the guilt that you were holding as it related to working on a team in those stages of work?
Yeah, definitely. So, I've held many different jobs in my career, and I also I started a charity for foster youth about 8 years ago in the Sacramento Roseville area, and we would do events and we would have different operational things that we have to do, and it would be so frustrating because I don't have a lot of I'm basically not good in the enablement tenacity area. I can do a little bit of enablement. I can respond to people, but it's not that natural to me. I'm much more likely to want to come up with my own idea and get you excited about that idea. And so what would happen is I would love when we'd have a new event coming up, I would come up with the ideas. It'd be like, yay, okay, we're going to do this type of fundraiser. I'd be excited, get everyone going. And okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's why we're doing it. So here's the cause. Here's all the whole thing. But then about a month out from the event, the bottom would drop out and I would start experiencing great, what I would call emotional and mental duress. And I would just not be able to really function. My life would start to get stressed out, and I would not understand why. And I didn't get it because, the ET work is what we call the real work. That's where we usually, so if you don't have a lot of ET, you feel a lot of kind of judgment towards yourself. I would never think I was very good, or that I felt I was kind of lazy because I wouldn't want to do the tenacity work. I didn't really like details. I didn't really like logistics, operational things, not fun for me at all. And so I know there's a lot of people out there like that. And so it was so cool that when I knew that now, and I think it was Jan or Janae, or no, it was Janice, she brought up an option or a question, and this played for what I dealt with, is I started looking for people. I had them take the assessments. I started identifying that these people have T, and I started galvanizing them to get involved in these efforts and turning that over to them, and then stepping back from that last month effort of the operations. And it was just a game changer in terms of they actually love doing that and they're great at it. And I was able to get back into doing some other inventing and galvanizing. And it was just so fulfilling. We fundraised the most money we ever raised. People had a good time doing it. And I didn't have a nervous breakdown. It was just a win all the way around. And that's really what's possible when is understanding, being aware. If you're a leader, being aware of your geniuses. It doesn't matter which geniuses you have, they're all good, but being aware of where you struggle, where you get frustrated, and then being able to, collaborate and bring people in and create a really cool environment where each person can leverage their gifts in a more powerful way. And that's really what happened. And now I still get a little judgment on myself sometimes, but for the most part, I now know that God made me this way. I have natural gifts. They're just not like everybody else. And we all have our own. So it really helped a lot.
Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for your comment here. Justin, I'll read it. Daniel had commented that bringing a strong tenacity enablement person to our team completely improved our work dynamic. Yes, because they probably helped bring things over the finish line, didn't they, Daniel? Yeah, that's awesome. And then a question Daniel had was, Justin, do you think that tenacity, might not come as naturally for inventor galvanizers?
I can definitely answer that, being that I happen to have that. You know what? Each person's unique, because you're gonna have one person who has IG as their geniuses and they have a strong T. I've met some people like that where that's their competency. So it's definitely not going to be a genius. So it's going to be in the middle area or low. But there are people who have a really strong T and a competency, a medium. It's like it's on the verge of being a frustration, but they can still do it, to people like me who have almost none of it and run from it whenever they can. But to make you feel better about anybody who has no T, there's things like you can be intentional around that time. A couple of the folks like Matt from the table group says this, like, he has his tea time, and he's intentional around when he has to do that. And I've found that, for example, habit development, creating micro habits around your tea work to be able to at least do it better, and leverage habit development to increase your effectiveness. There's a lot of ways to work around any of your frustrations to at least be able to do it in the world, because we all have to do all six. So just know, if you do have frustrations, it's not the end of the world, and we all have them, and you can find intentional ways to improve them. So, but not focus on them too much. That's a whole nother topic down the road. But anyways.
Yeah. Well, and a great part of understanding the frustrations is that you understand why you might be frustrated in certain situations, whether they be meetings that are, for example, some people who are really strong with ET, with enablement and tenacity, they're going to be more on like that 5,000 to ground level elevation is what we say. They love to just get things done. And so if they know that they're going to have to enter a brainstorming meeting, or they hear brainstorming, I've heard some people just cringe, like, oh, I don't really want to be a part of this, going around and around and questioning it. That's hard for them. But boy, if you don't understand why you're getting frustrated in a meeting or having a conversation with somebody, then that can cause a lot of negative ripple effects. But if you understand, okay, yes, this is brainstorming. I don't love to brainstorm. Maybe I can, in this meeting, I know that maybe my genius is not called for, especially if my team understands that I'm really strong with bringing things across the finish line. They're maybe not going to lean into me as much for these high level wonderings and ideas and things like that. So again, on a team, it can be so powerful. And I'd love to share with you a sample of, let's see here, go through here, a team map analysis. So we've talked a lot about individually understanding yourself. As it turns out, you can have a whole team take this assessment, and you can get a team map analysis to come with that, to share a little bit about what does this mean for our team. So we have an example here of a team, and as you can tell, this team map analysis is broken down. If you look from left to right, starting top across and then going down. So we've got wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, and then enablement, tenacity. So this team map analysis is going to show everybody's geniuses, what they're really strong in, and their frustrations. It's not as workable if we try to throw in competencies, so that's why competencies were not included here. But as you can see, you can start to look at where are we really strongly represented in geniuses. And just by looking at this team map, when it's all put out with everybody's results, you can go directly to enablement and see, wow, this team is really strong with the gift of enablement. So when they have somebody, when an idea is brought forth, or a galvanizer has championed an idea, you've got a whole row of people ready to respond and jump in here with those 4 people. On the flip side, you take a look at where is this team maybe frustrated? Where are they underrepresented? Galvanizing. I can see here that they've got 5 people who have a working frustration, not even a competency, but a working frustration in galvanizing. This might explain a lot. Nobody really wants to get things going or push people out of their comfort zones. Galvanizers, they're okay with pushing people out of their comfort zones. So this team was really frustrated by it. This is actually a team that I'm currently working with. And so it's been wonderful insight for them. And we are working through this and developing systems for how they can work through when they are in the process and they are in activation phase, to be able to smoothly go from discernment and really tapping into Chris and Catherine in this discernment. And then Kelly really shines, and actually, she's been somebody she didn't know this about herself, and boy, has this empowered her to understand that she is like their chief galvanizing officer in their office. And it's been so empowering for her to know that they need her, and they love that she's got this genius in this area. So this is just a snapshot of a team map. So
Stacy, one other thing, there was a question in the chat from CB, and she talked about how, if you could be possibly, naturally wired to be, a certain way, but not have those skill sets to be successful in your geniuses. And this can play out in this team map. So if you're an enablement person, but maybe you don't have any galvanizers, you might, in your life, you will still be wanting to respond, but the galvanizer is really what energizes and you're enthusiastically responding to that galvanizer. So let's say Kelly doesn't know she's a galvanizer and isn't in a role where she can leverage and use that. Nobody knows that that's the case. So you have all these people that's frustrating for them, so they're not going to be doing any galvanizing. So that leaves all these wonderful enablement people not having anybody to respond to. And that can cause their enablement genius to also start to become a little more dormant. And so you're not developing those geniuses, because we can exponentially grow in our geniuses more than anything else, any other areas. But you have to be able to know that, you have to be aware enough to know that is your area of strength, and then to have those people around you that help to activate and help you maximize your areas of genius as well. So those are just a couple points I wanted to throw out there. Thanks for the question, CB. That was great.
Yeah, thank you. We've got another one here. Somebody wondering about, I'd love to do this as a team analysis. How we find out about that, we will share about that. Justin and I would love to work with you if you'd like to look into what we have to offer here.
And then NW just brought up one around how does this connect to other personality tests like Myers-Briggs and others? What sort of change over time do we see predict with staff, or do you find teams are rather static? I know you've done, we've both done a lot of those, but you've done more of the personality tests than I have. Stacy, what are your thoughts on that question?
Yep. Sorry, I was just reading another thing here. They can definitely connect to some of the others. So as I had mentioned before, with Working Genius, this is going to be more. It's going to be more focused on getting work done, but having an overlap as far as like I'm an ENFP in the Myers-Briggs. That doesn't necessarily tell me though how I like to get work done. It tells more about my personality. So I would say it's another strand that can help in that way, but not necessarily a way that you could weave them in together. Also, what sort of change over time do you see predict with staff? Do you find teams are in? NW, can you explain further here what sort of change you see over time predict with staff as far as if they infuse Working Genius? And if they do, I mean, I would just say, or if that is what we're looking at here, okay, yeah, then, the change over time that you're going to see is just that, first of all, letting go of self guilt that's unnecessary and decreasing judgment across teams because you have a greater understanding for each other. Clarity is brought to what you are doing as far as how they are naturally wired for working, and clarity is brought to your process of getting any kind of work done. And with that, of course, is going to come increased productivity. And naturally, morale is going to increase because people are actually able to really live into what their natural geniuses are. Justin and I did not know what we naturally were wired for in working, and now we do. And I've got so much more fulfillment in the work that I get to do because I understand what it is. And so of course, decreased burnout is going to happen. People are going to want to stay in the positions. You're going to, as Jim Collins says, you're going to be able to get people in the right seat on the bus because you can use this for hiring mechanisms. Sometimes it's like, a company might be asking, should we hire an ENFP or, for this position? And it's more so look at what type of job is this? Is this an IG job like Justin has? Is this an ET job? Is this a DE job where I do a lot of coaching and consulting where I get to be responsive to people's needs and really analyze and give good feedback to them? That's a DE job, and that's what I'm in. And so it's a great thing to use for hiring as well. So the list kind of goes on and on with the benefits.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of different reasons that it's so beneficial, but also just to understand that the personality assessments are amazing. They're great because you want to build self-awareness. You want to understand yourself better. The challenge from a team perspective is almost all of them are complicated. They have Strength Finders has 34 different areas of strength. So when you try to make everyone on your team understand the model and be able to leverage it and put it into practice as a team with a language, it's very hard to implement because it's not simple. It's not easy. It's not as clear from being able to have everybody buy in, get it, and be able to actually use it in the way they do work. And that's what's so beautiful of this. It fits into those different models because you have the awareness going into this productivity model, and then your whole team can buy into it and leverage it because it's simple. And it allows for everybody to maximize performance and have a simple language they can use. So
Daniel had asked about, Justin, this is more in yours about the correlation between burnout and Working Genius.
Yeah, I know he had to jump off, but that might be a question other people want to hear about.
Oh, Daniel's still here. Yeah.
Oh, he is? Okay. He sent me a direct message saying he needed to jump off.
Oh.
Hopefully he's still on the call. If he's still here, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I'm here. I can stay for 2 more minutes.
Oh, good. Wonderful, yeah. Daniel. Well, considering I've experienced burnout, I think as much as maybe anybody in this room, it's something that's so helpful, because once you understand where your geniuses are, and then you can start to look at all your areas of tasks and work and things that you're involved in, and then look for ways to customize or to draw in other people who fill in your gaps. Now you're able to take that heavy burden, which is every time you're in your frustrations, slowly off your back, one by one, taking a rock out of that backpack and giving it to somebody. When they take that rock, it's literally a pebble in their hand. You see this thing as this huge rock you're carrying around. This is so heavy. I hand that to Stacy. She's like, "Oh, thanks for the pebble. I'm going to put that in my pocket. Let's keep walking." Because that's literally the automatic change that occurs when you go from holding something you're carrying that's a frustration and giving it to somebody who it's their genius. It is so beautiful to see. And we've seen it back and forth between Stacy and I mean, more times than I can count.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you think about Carrie Newhoff, I think it is, puts it, sometimes we think that we're getting burnt out and we just need a break. But, taking a break is actually, that's not, time off is not going to heal you, when what the problem is what you do with your time on.
It's not too much work. It's the type of work. And that's what Patrick learned when other people were trying to take things off his plate that actually gave him energy. And they were like, "But you have to do all the galvanizing because you're the leader." It's like, I'm not going to take that off your plate. And then, so he's stuck doing the things that drain him and taking away the things that actually give him energy. And he had to learn that and learn the model. And then it was beautiful how the transformation in his life, going from a grumpy guy who wasn't loving his work, even though he loved who he worked with and loved the work he did, to go towards now just really enjoying everything and them succeeding on levels that they had never succeeded in the past prior to the model. So I know we're getting close to the end here.
Yes, and yes, we are. Real quick there, with NW, their table group is pretty open about that they don't, that as far as the efficacy, the validity of widget, there is nothing that is put out there for numbers, and they're pretty open about that. But it is true. I would say I think it's like they have, with all of their data they have, it's like over 95%. People are saying, yes, this describes me. This is absolutely where I get my joy and energy from.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was listening to Matt, who's Patrick's son. He was talking about they are working at cultivating the research and the quantifiable data that shows the efficacy of the model. So it's definitely in the process. They just haven't cultivated enough to want to put that out there yet.
Yes.
You want to
All
go?
right.
Yeah.
Yes, got that. Go ahead, Justin.
So we really appreciated this time with you. And for those of you that think that this is a very valuable model and you want to learn more, we want to help you. We're here for you. And in that, we want to show that desire in the fact that we have two offers for you. For anybody who is in this, it won't be for anybody out in the world, but for those who've been on this call, you can contact us. And if you want to do a one-on-one coaching with myself or Stacy, we'll do that at the price that we have on here, which would include, your assessment, us customizing and looking at your results, and then spending that hour really helping you, develop an understanding and how you can move forward with the model. And if you have a team and you want to have us come in and do a training, kind of go more in depth than what this is, then we offer this 2-hour virtual training. This would include handout resources, update assessments, a customized team map analysis, and we'll do a 1-hour Q&A follow-up the month after. And you can also contact us, if you have questions or, debrief on what would be your feelings on the training. And that's the value of it and what we're offering to do it for. And that's both of us together. That's not one of us or the other of us. So we think that's an incredible value, and we just want to support you all in your journey and achieving the success that we know you can accomplish. And so if we can be a part of that journey with you, then we'd love that. And you can reach out to either one of us if you have questions, but I'll be the contact person for this offer. But we have our information on the next page.
Oh, yes, sorry. This is last page. We'd love a few takeaways, but we will, can we do just last minute here real quick? Oops, now I can't. Oh, there we go. Can we do a few takeaways if people want to put a takeaway in the chat, or if they want to put an emoji up if they want to speak before we close out here?
And while you're throwing your takeaways into the chat, I will let you know that I will be following up with the recording of the session, so you can access that, as well as the opportunities that Stacy and Justin are putting before you. So you should get an email sometime tomorrow around that. So if you're throwing in some of those takeaways, just a quick note, if you're a student here, that first link that I threw in the chat, that is the sign-in sheet for the Soul Leadership Initiative. So feel free to fill that out and get your points for being here. So, but I will give Stacy and Justin an opportunity maybe to say a few last words, and then I'll run through a few of my links and we can go from there.
All right.
Yeah, this was a blast. Just really appreciate all of you, all of your questions, your engagement, being willing to, to delve into this topic. It's exciting to see how many people have jumped on board, whether it's, businesses, nonprofits, churches, schools, like the number of people that see this value, see what this can do in their personal lives and their professional lives, in their teams. I know there's a Gallup poll says only 37% of employees are fulfilled in their work. Well, Patrick and their team and Stacy and I, we don't think that that's acceptable. And we want to be a part of that number going up a lot and allowing people to really be energized and get fulfillment and joy from the work they do. So thanks for having us here. Stacy, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, thank you, Justin. No, I think that sounds good. And I thank you all for investing in yourself. You are the best investment that you can invest in. So thank you for being here, everybody. We have, I see.
Looks like we have
Jane
a question.
Wallace.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
just
for it.
ever so quickly. Thank you times 50 that you guys have presented this to all of us that have been looking at this. It's just been so helpful, so relieving and palpable that we can really put this as a great reach into into ourselves and our lives and our teams. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're honored to be
You're
able
most
to be with
welcome.
you.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to say thank you, Justin and Stacy, for spending the afternoon with us and walking us through this amazing workshop. I hope people take you up on your offer. I know just in kind of building the workshop, I've learned a lot from both of you around my own working geniuses. So I look forward to seeing those entrepreneurs and or students plugging into the resources that you have, and just appreciative of the opportunity to partner on this. So I will be following up again with the recording and that opportunity to work with Stacy and Justin further. So without further ado, thank you all for being here, and thank you again for the support. And I look forward to seeing you around the ecosystem, whether that be in Sacramento or beyond. So thank you all, and you have a great rest of the day.
Cameron, I got a question for you.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
How do we get the credit for the Green Leadership Initiative?
Yep. So that's the first link that I threw in the chat where it says Soul. You just have to fill out a quick form, and you'll get points for doing that. You'll get the credit.
I didn't see that link.
I'll throw it back in here. So it's the top one where it says Soul, SOAL, in the chat.
Oh, thank you so much.
You got it. Awesome. All righty.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all, and feel free to reach out if you need any support. All righty. Thank you.